Hello, my name is Frank. I'm the creator of ELMixMasterPro, and this is part 1 of a video series covering the features of ELMixMasterPro. This tutorial will cover the mix page. Jump right into it. In the top left-hand corner of the mix page is the subviews of the mix page. We'll cover that after we cover the basic standard view. To the right of that is your recipe books. These recipe books can be created and managed in your recipe book tab. You want to switch in between recipe books, you just select one and switch to it. I don't have anything in this one. It shows all the recipes from my recipes recipe book. Below that we have our recipes. Select a recipe that you want to mix and it'll be loaded and displayed. Below this is your base. Base is just a bottle of VG, PG, and nicotine. Whenever I mix my PG, VG, and nicotine base bottle, I leave 10% of my PG out to allow room for my flavorings. So whenever I mix a bottle of e-liquid, I add the flavorings and I simply top it off with my base bottle. You can go in here and edit your base bottles. Anytime you mix a recipe for the very first time, it will be assigned the very top base entry. So keep your most used base entry towards the top or at the top. From here you can create new mixes or save a new mix as a different value. You can move your list up and down from here as well. You can set up your milligrams of your nicotine and your VG percentage. You can also edit your base mix right on screen. Just change it, save it. Now we move on down to the flavors of the recipe. If you'll put your cursor in the drops or the grams box, the flavor name, the grams, and the estimated drops will be bolded. Makes it a little easier to identify. There's one other new feature. Switch over to the design page. If you have an optional flavor, you can type open parentheses OP. It will automatically put optional no in there. You can see that now we have optional no, and it's 0 grams of this flavor for this recipe. You can left click on this flavor name. It's in the top left hand corner. You get a little message. This feature is now enabled. Now you can left click on it to enable or disable the flavor. Above that we have our versions. The version menu from the mix and the design page behave exactly the same. If you hold your mouse over the version, it will give you a flavor list with the percentages. So you can compare the current version displayed with the other versions of this recipe. You can see that I've modified this recipe over these versions. If you want to switch to a version, you just click on it. You can see that the version number changed to 1, and this was the original one I created. And this is version 4, which is what my friend vapes at this time. Below that you have the cost. We'll go ahead and drop into the cost detail. If there's any problems computing the cost, it'll show up on this subview. Just gives a detailed breakdown of how the cost is computed. Right over here you can see that there's hardly any nicotine. It didn't even add up to a penny. I only have 1 milligram. Let's go ahead and change it so you can see it. 3 cents worth of nicotine, 7 cents VG, a penny PG. Leave this on 1 because I'll make a flavor base here in a minute. I don't want to deduct that much flavoring from my flavor inventory. Below the amount to mix value, you'll have your nicotine grams to mix, VG, PG, your total amount of base that will be added to this. Below that you have your flavorings, 0.04 grams, change this to 10. Shows you how much of each flavor in grams as well as milliliters. At the top of the page there's a button called Move to Top. Whenever you import a recipe from the web or from other means, it'll be added to the bottom of your list. I always move it to the top of the list whenever I mix. That way everything I've mixed recently is towards the top of my list. I have 1,250 recipes in this recipe book, so I like to keep everything that I've mixed recently at the top. It's easier to find. From here you can also create a label after you mix it. You can click the Create Label. We'll switch over here. We'll delete one of these. From here you can change to a different label. The label config is covered in another tutorial. There's also a log mix. Whenever you click the log mix, a copy of this recipe is added to your mix log. First time you go to the mix log, it'll have to load, so it pops up a little dialog while it loads. From here, if you want to see what you've mixed, you can see what you've mixed. This is also used in some of the flavor statistics reports, which won't be available whenever you first start, but after you get to mixing, it'll be able to tell you how much of each flavor you've been mixing by month or total or various information. That'll be located in the flavors page. If you want to locate a recipe that you've mixed, you just double click it and it'll pull it up. This next little section, everything to the below the log mix and to the right of the milliliter column is what's considered the flavor drop detail. You put your cursor in the drops of the grams, it'll highlight the flavor, but also as you're mixing, if you record the drops and the grams, it will record that and give you an estimated drop count that's needed for this flavor amount. If you click on a flavor drop, it'll give you the list of values that have been recorded that is used to calculate how much a drop weighs. Whenever you get a new bottle, you can click delete all, or if for some reason there's an error in one of your entries, you can click on it and click delete. Whenever you mix e-liquid and you click the log mix button, if you've added anything to the drops or the grams column, it will create a mix history. The mix history is just a way of keeping track of exactly how you mix that particular bottle. Down at the bottom, it'll show how many milliliters were mixed as well as the date that was mixed. And as you can see right here, I made 100 milliliters. Let's go ahead and change this so we can kind of compare. I added quite a bit more sweet watermelon to this mix than what was called for. So if we'll move the mouse down to the Create button, you can see that Cap Sweet Watermelon at that value was mixed at 5.3%. Called for 4%, but if I wanted to create a new version of this recipe based on that mix history, I could click the Create button and version 5 would be created with that mix history. Let's go ahead and do that. So over here on the right, you can see where version 5, Cap Sweet Watermelon, is 5.3. There's the 5.3. Let's go to the subviews. The first one is the flavor base. From here you can mix a bottle that only contains flavoring and then use that bottle to mix your e-liquid. So technically I could make a flavor base of this sweet pear watermelon. I could add the amount needed and then I could top it off my base bottle and be finished mixing a bottle of this e-liquid. Whenever you create a flavor-based label, it will also prompt you to create a new version of this recipe that uses this flavoring as the only flavor. It'll also ask you if you want to create a new flavor of sweet pear watermelon base. That way you can keep track of how much flavoring you have left. So let's go ahead and create a new flavor-based label. I want to go ahead and just create 1 milliliter because it'll deduct the values from my inventory. Let's go ahead and create it. Ask me if I want to create a flavor base. I'll say yes. Ask me if I want to create a new version of this recipe using this flavor base as the only flavor. I'll click yes. So now we have a new version, version 6, that only uses this flavor base as the only flavor. Let's pop over here and I want to show you something. The flavor base label. Let's go ahead and edit it so I can zoom in. Click on the zoom. You can see to the right I have entries over here, and it tells me on the label how much to mix for the 11, 30, 50, or 100 milliliter bottles. This is let's go ahead and add. I want to show you how that is done. So I'm going to add a new text block. I'm going to scoot it down. Not that far. Scoot it down. It's right about here. I'm going to edit the text template. I'm going to add data. I'm going to go down here, flavor-based grams per milliliter. I just got the new Bull City Vapor Chubby Gorilla bottles, which are 60 milliliters. I'm going to add 60, enter milliliter to compute grams for. So I added 60. Click Save. Now it tells me for 60 ml bottles, I'm going to add 4.57 grams. Let's go ahead and step back over here. I'll have to clean this up in a little bit. Delete that text box. Now if we switch to the double mix, I'll go ahead and leave it on this. Double mix simply allows you to mix 2 bottles of flavoring at the same time. Suppose I want to make a 10 milliliter and a 100 milliliter. I can put both of those scales and read the values at the same time to make 2 different bottles of e-liquid at the same time. Flavor drop detail, we'll cover that in just a second. Go ahead and jump down to the cost detail, which we've already covered. Now that we're in double mix and we have cost detail displayed, if we wanted to drop back to the flavor drop detail subview, click Control F4 or just click the value in the menu. Now we're back to flavor drop detail. Also, I forgot one little detail. The all 3 button. Whenever I mix e-liquid, if I want to move it to the top, create a label, and log the mix, you can create the all 3. And if you have anything in the print queue, it will get processed as well. But if you click all 3, it will move your recipe to the top of your list, create the label, and print it using the default printer settings. That includes any printer labels that you have in your queue in the label config. I have 2 already there. And it will log the mix. The help button will give you a little bit of instructions on some of the features. The PayPal button will open a page in the web browser. If you want to donate to the cause, help cover the cost of creating this app and running the web server, that would be appreciated. Test button is something that you won't see because I use it to line up the ELMixMasterPro app into the size required for this video. There will be a few updates coming very soon. The import Bull City Flavors confirmation email will have a new interface. I'll create a new video. Also, the import one of the recipes from one of the websites will have an interface update. If you'll subscribe to my channel, whenever these videos on these tutorials are released, they'll be short. But if you'll subscribe to my channel, you'll be notified when they're released. Thanks.